Hey guys, what's up? It is the episode of Pros and Cons where I do Ultimate Inferno Armor Dragon. Now, this is a very interesting deck, and one thing I want to get off my chest before we start is I'm sorry this did not end up on Wednesday, and it's ending up today on Thursday because, well, we were doing a live stream with Joel last night, Hunter Surge, link in the description, because I am definitely putting a link into the guy who made this deck what it is. Ultimate Inferno is Joel's creation. It's an amazing version of Armor Dragons, which is pretty interesting. It has its flaws, of course, and it's great pros. So that's why it's here on this episode, and it was requested down in the comment section. So, without further ado, let's get started on Inferno Armor's pros and cons. Now, one thing we must say about what is Inferno Armor Dragon and what is the main goal of this deck. Well, you have this card right here, Inferno Armor Dragon. If you do not know what this is, I will read it right to you right now. This is a size 3 Armor Dragon with 7,000 power, 3 crit, and 7,000 defense. It's because the card costs to pay 2 gauge and put the top 2 cards from your deck into this card's soul. And then it has an ability, Anger Inferno. When this card enters the field, if there's an Armor Dragon in this card's soul, destroy an opponent's monster on the field. And then its second ability, Inferno Shoot. You may discard 2 cards from your soul, and if you do, destroy a monster on your opponent's side of the field. So, if you put an Armor Dragon, you can literally destroy a monster for free, and then you can get rid of the 2 cards in soul since it does not have Soul Guard yet. And just get rid of the 2 cards and destroy another monster if you feel like it. Or you can do the Ultimate Inferno combo. You use Ultimate Buddy. Now, this is a very interesting card. Most people don't use it, so I'm going to read it out for you. This is a generic. This is a generic card. So if you want to use it in some kind of Ultimate deck, you can use it. Pay 1 gauge, put this card into your Buddy monster's soul, which means it only works if this is your buddy. So you have to get 5 copies. And you put this card in your soul. And then if this card is in your buddy monster's soul, your buddy gets Soul Guard and plus 5,000 power. So you can have his ability allowing you to get 2 cards into his soul. If one of them is an Armor Dragon, you can already get to blow up anything without losing the soul. Then you use Ultimate Buddy by paying a gauge. So you're paying 3 gauge, and then you put this in here along with 2 other cards. So imagine these winning your soul from his ability. Now he gets to pop something because there's an Armor Dragon in his soul. And then bam, you can activate this, pay a gauge, put it in the soul. Now he's got 12,000 power and triple Soul Guard. How powerful is that? That's definitely a pro. So that's the main combo of the deck. So that's why this deck is so powerful, because a triple Soul Guard is nowhere near a joke. It is so strong, and then 12,000 power on your monster that is already a wall by itself. That's just so fucking powerful. There's no reason you shouldn't even think about this deck being a threat, because that is a threat. A triple Soul Guard monster with 12,000 power. Amazing. Just simply amazing. Another pro of the deck, it's easy to utilize Inferno Armor's skill. If you don't have an Ultimate Buddy in your hand, you can still use his ability to blow up 2 monsters and then go for maybe 3 damage. So that's the great thing about this deck. Even without using your main combo, you still have plays. Unlike if you're playing a wall deck like Seeger. This pretty much is a wall deck just like Seeger, but better in every single way. But this deck still has one big problem. Since you play a size 3 and there's no Dragon World size 0s, you have a very low damage output. You have 1 attack per turn, really. Honestly, this is probably usually your only attack per turn. So that's a con. But, you do have access to now the generic size 0. We've got Actor Knight Hanged Man. Hanged Man costs you 1 gauge and is 3/1/3. So, Hangman is pretty good in the deck, of course, because now you get a small little more damage output. You can get 4 damage, or if you have 2, 5 damage per turn. So which is probably better than 3 damage, of course. So this is a really needed card in the deck, because and it does cost you another gauge, but this is Armor Dragons. You've got Blue Dragon Shield, you've got Dragonic Charge, but no, you really shouldn't use that. You shouldn't use a weapon. I, I mean, but like you're just gonna keep Gage for a while because a great thing about this deck, it plays really similar to generic armor dragons when you don't have Inferno armor. That is a really good thing because when it comes to decks that usually have a wall, or a deck that's based around it, then other monsters don't really do much, or they're just there to support the wall. But these cards can just be in your deck just because you can use them without having Seeker. Of course, we can think about Drumbarker Dragon because he has Soul Guard and he has 3 crit. So he's a really good fit in the deck because it's another pseudo Inferno if you need a card to block the center. And he's got 3 crit, of course, so once again, and then you can throw out size 1, maybe 2 crit, like, of course, 1000 Rapier Dragon. So you have a good damage output without Inferno armor on field. But once Inferno's out, then not really. But it's still not a downside because you're still be able to go in just like in a regular generic armor dragon deck, which is really great. But this deck has pretty much a small flaw, and that is when your cards get removed from Soul. Now, this is only limited to a few decks, but we could be seeing more. But pretty much cards like Rolling Stone, where you pay 3 gauge and then you get rid of a Destroy Monster or Soul Guard and get rid of all its cards in Soul. So that completely shuts down the Inferno armor play. And then we've also got Ninja Arts half strike or half kill? I forget which. But it pretty much nullifies an attack when you attack with a Soul Guard monster and it gets rid of all the cards in Soul. Once this has happened, your Inferno armor is pretty much back to regular stats, 737, and it's got no more Soul Guard and no more Soul. So this thing could easily now get link attacked or even smacked over by another size 3, usually. So that's kind of the problem with this deck because once you get the wall out, you don't really have much ways to stop what the wall is going to get removed. But there's technically another way to deal with cards like that. We have Skies in your hand. Skies in your hand is a very underrated card in Dragon World, where you return all your monsters to your hand as a counter spell. Now the thing is, most people don't like this, I guess, because you return all your monsters, so you have to bring them back out. They know what's in your hand now, blah 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 blah. But the reason why this is so great, it's better than White Dragon Shield because you can counter just like it's a shield or whatever. And then if say you're going to get penetrated, which this deck also has a problem with, which I'll get to later, Skies in your hand will return all the monsters to the hand, so it returns all the Inferno. Even if you might lose your Soul Guard or just might have well lost Inferno's ultimate buddy play, you still don't take the damage because just like Magic Goodbye, like say you remove the target, now it pretty much acts like a nullify for the attack. So pretty much that's what Skies in your hand is used in the deck, to avoid penetrate and at the same time saving your monsters. So Skies in your hand works great in the deck. But at the same time, I gotta mention why it's a flaw in the deck. Skies in your hand may be great to get to deal with penetrate, but other than Skies in your hand and Drago Energy, there is no way to deal with penetrate. This is Armor Dragons we're talking about. Armor Dragons cannot do much when you have a monster in center. This deck works with a center, so pretty much your Dragon Shields don't work. You would have to use maybe some kind of monster removal, which this deck has plenty of, another thing I'll get into later. And this deck just has lots and lots of problems against penetrate monsters. If you go against Jackknives, they can instantly use Thunderstorm and destroy it, and then they can probably like link attack and then penetrate all pike, which just sucks. And another thing is that you could easily take a lot of damage once you're going into Danger World because there's monsters that are not weak, especially the ones with penetrate. You usually have 6,000 or 5,000 power. So 5,000 plus the Hysteric Spear, that's 10,000 to your monsters, to Inferno armor. You'll still take the damage even if you Drago Energy. You'll be taking like 5 or 4 damage from the double penetrate, which would suck so much. So it does have a problem with dealing with penetrate because you're playing a monster in the center in the Armor Dragon deck. But this deck is nowhere near awful because even without Inferno armor on field, if you don't have a center, Dragon Shields are your great backup to get you back in the game. So that's a pro. The Dragon Shields, of course, allow you to get more gauge, so you can get out Inferno later in the game, or the necessary gauge for Ultimate Buddy. And also, of course, the Green Dragon Shield getting you a life. And if you just need reference, here are the Dragon Shields right now. Green and blue. Gain a life, gain a gauge. Nullify attacks. Anyway, you should probably know what those do anyway. I just wanted to show you. Either way, these cards are perfect for this deck because even with a center, even if you feel like these cards are dead, they will help you out once Inferno maybe have died off. So it's really great that these should be, of course, be an Armor Dragon deck or any Dragon deck for that matter. So pretty much, and then we run into the same problem as every Dragon World deck: no draw power. So there's no way to draw into Inferno or Ultimate Buddy consistently. I know that sounds really, really bad, but this is the problem with all Dragon World decks, except for maybe Thunder Knights because they have Drago Archer, but that's another day and another video. Anyway, the best thing you can do in those situations is literally try and preserve your hand as much as you can. If you can't, you're going to be stuck in a top deck war against your opponent. And if you're facing something like Magic World, which can deal with this, usually it's going to suck because they already have plenty of draw power through Nice One and Will Glass Art. And if they're playing Wizards, they're playing Kosher. But this deck, I have to say, has outstanding monster removal. Infernal Armor, like I said, without this Ultimate Buddy play, you can get rid of 2 monsters as long as you put an Armor Dragon Soul from the top of your deck, and then just using his ability right after Inferno Shoot. So pretty much, you have ways to get rid of 2 monsters on field. You still have Dragon Breath and Dragonic Thunder in your deck. That is plenty of ways to get rid of monsters that can be problematic for you. You get rid of monsters that are trying to link attack you, like going against Dungeon Mix, and then going against even other variants of worlds, like Katana World and ninjas and other things that try and deal with link attacking. You can just get rid of them off board if you need them to. And if they say use a size 3, you probably took damage next turn. Bring out Inferno, then Inferno's ability, and then even if you don't get an Armor Dragon Soul, get rid of the 2 Soul, unless you have Ultimate Buddy. And you don't want to do that. But either way, you can get rid of the monster on board, even with Ultimate Buddy or not, just by using Inferno. Inferno is just such a great card. And I kind of feel Joel's paying why this card is an SP. It looks great in its holo. I don't know if you guys can see the greatness of this holo, but pretty much it's just sad. It's a waste. Last of them. They're not many, because this is Dragons. It's hard to make it seem like there's cons. Anyway, drawing Ultimate Buddy without Inferno. Ultimate Buddy will be the most useless card in your fucking hand in existence if you draw it without Inferno. Which is a really, really bad thing, but you can deal with it. Of course, you can charge and draw it unless you already charged and drew into that. But you can still preserve it in your hand in case you draw into an Inferno, which is good, but at the same time, it's just a dead card. Think of it being your last card in your hand because you've been having to keep yourself defended with your monsters and then they keep killing them all. So now you got 1 card in hand, they think it's a nullifier, now it's just an Ultimate Buddy stuck in your hand. So it kind of can suck when you draw this a lot without drawing Inferno. But with the way you play 4 and 4 of each, you should be seeing the Ultimate Inferno just as well. But it just all comes down to the luck of the draw, of course. Because we play a card game here. And the last, but not true flaw of this deck is no impacts able to be used. It's like Jackknives. This thing has, unlike Jackknives, this thing does not have a good damage output when you have Inferno out. And then Inferno goes in your center almost 100% of the time. Of course, 100% of the time. But you can only use, the only impact possible would be Dragonic Punisher, but just like Jackknives, you need your gauge for the most important card of your deck, and the other most important card of your deck. So you really can't use impacts in this deck, so that's why it has such a low damage output, because you have no way of truly finishing the game easy as fuck, like just going like, bam, I activated impact, it's over. So, This deck has plenty of pros and a few cons, but the few cons are kind of around in almost every Dragon World deck. So my final verdict of this deck is very, very good deck. It has plenty of ways to deal with multiple decks because of Dragon World's great support, and it even has its way of being unique in against even the meta, and it has its own place as probably one of the most underrated good decks in Buddy Fight. So thank you, Joel, for helping me out with this because I have almost no I have limited knowledge of this deck. So thanks to him, I was able to even bring you this video. So definitely stick around for more Buddy Fight content on here, and then check out Joel's channel, of course, because you can watch Inferno all day long, which is the best thing ever. So comment down below what you want to see in the next episode, and see you guys later. Joey going out.